It is an interesting one with public housing, it's called. At one time, the local authority built houses for the local people and rented them to them, and at some point a government quango also was created called the Housing Corporation that funded through grants on 60-year mortgages what they called housing associations. In the 1980s, during Margaret Thatcher's government, they changed all that. They started to allow council house tenants, which is public housing, or local authority housing, allowed them to buy their own properties. The sales receipts going into the local authority coffers that they were unable to spend, as it was money that was generated from the sales, and as they were no longer building new properties, the money was just held there in abeyance, or just held there apparently, and the Housing Corporation funded housing associations that sort of replaced the local authority. The reasons why are probably complex and not relevant, though the Housing Corporation funded the housing associations that provided the public housing then. And then in Margaret Thatcher's government, when they started allowing the council house tenants to buy their properties, the money going into the local authority coffers, and they stopped the housing association funding. The housing associations were required to get 20% funding from private sources, and the government Clangle Housing Corporation only provided 80% of the expenditure, sort of changing the whole public housing sector. I've just been down to the local what was the local council housing office, and on this week's available properties expressions, they're called now. I know it's an expression when you apply for one. On the 28th of March 2011, the council transferred the ownership and management of its housing stock to the Town at Home. The Town at Home is now a registered housing provider. They sort of no longer own any of the property any longer. And my question is, after all that for 3 minutes, is what happened to the funds that were generated from the sales of the council housing stock, which reduced the availability of available council housing because they did not build any more beyond that. This money's just been quietly forgotten. Nobody's mentioned it. There's no, I mean, there were, at the time, there were talk of if only we could access this money, we would be able to build more housing stock, only we can't access it because we are unable to do, because of, I don't know whether it was legislated or just a government decision that public housing was no longer to be funded from local authority funds. So where did the money go?